Oh, hi. Welcome to Cauldron, Her Daddy, a podcast about magic, sex, astrology, and other things that Meredith, my co-host, and I want to talk about. I'm Sarai Johnson, a somatic sexologist and witch.
And I'm Meredith Hulley, an astrologer, human design reader, and witch. And today we are joined by Diana, who is going to participate in a reading with us today. So welcome,
Yay.
Diana.
Thank you so much.
Yay. So we wanted to check in with you, see what is going on with you, what specific questions you have, what challenges are happening for you.
So I would love to know, I know as a Taurus, I just came out of kind of a big period of challenge and sort of transition. And I think other parts of my chart also signify that. And so now that I'm kind of moving into this new era of my astrology, I'm kind of wondering, what should I be focusing on? What should I be thinking about? What should I be leaning towards? What should I be avoiding? How can I best optimize my personal growth in this current moment and also better show up for the people I love?
I love that question. That's awesome. So we're going to start with Sarai doing a little card reading, if you're okay with that, Sarai, and check in with your energy and see what the cards say.
That sounds great.
I am using the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess, and I love this deck. It is a gift that Meredith actually gave me I think at the end of last year.
Yeah, I love that deck too.
I use it every day. Okay, we're going to do a little kind of body, mind, spirit reading. It's the one I use most days. And we'll start by pulling a card that's sort of the theme. And this will be for this new era that you're entering into as some of the astrology shifts and recognizing that you've been through some things.
Some things, yes.
All right. So we have for our kind of central theme, Knight of Swords. And Knight of Swords is, of course, the swords are air, the air element, and also to do with the mind and kind of quickness. And knights are always forging ahead. And so when you think about swords and the Knight of Swords, it's taking your intellect, combining that with your heart, your intuition, and being able to speak the truth and take things to the next place. So that's beautiful. There's like this forward motion showing on the card. This knight is sort of zooming on a bicycle in what looks like a downhill position. Very chill. And then we've got for your body, the death card. But also you'll notice on this card, it is beautiful because it is actually talking about death and rebirth. And really the death card isn't about dying necessarily. It's really about the cycles of life and of embracing those cycles of life and the change that comes with it. And I understand you have a new member of your family. So it might really be about leaving the pre-motherhood version of yourself, a little bit behind, but also bringing with you what is still to be, like what's the kind of core of you into that role. And then with your mind, we have Ace of Wands, which of course, wands are the fire element and ace is the new beginning. Ace of Wands is kind of like the potential of what is new and what can become. Your emotions, we have King of Wands. Ooh, you're on fire. Look at you firing up all over the place here. King of Wands is really fun. King of Wands is like very much a let's go. I think of the King of Wands in a way as like this picture in particular I like because it looks like they're leading a protest. They're kind of
I love that.
Forging ahead for what's right, and standing up for what's right and being valiant and courageous in doing that. And King of Pentacles. So your kings, you have got some auspicious cards here, I think. King of Pentacles, the Pentacles being earth and the material realm. And the King of Pentacles is really this character who has like kind of not amassed necessarily, not hoarding wealth, but like tending to it and stewarding it and using it for the good of the community as well as for themselves. And so I think that's kind of a lovely reading. It looks like you are kind of on the cusp of something new and starting from a great place of also having a lot of resources. And it seems like with these kings, I think some stability and also some kind of leadership-y qualities.
Yeah. That's so
Meredith, back to
fun.
you.
I love it. I love it. Do you have questions about that, Diana?
That all just resonates with me so much. I think it's good. I think it definitely feels like where I am at now. Sarai and Meredith, I'd love to know what you think about what those cards, like what kind of guidance or messaging, or where are they leading me in towards, or what should I be mindful of, I guess, as I'm thinking about them, because just in terms of how they describe where I'm headed, I think they're spot on.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the one thing that comes up at directly in your astrology, and I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this. So I'm showing the inside of this wheel here is your natal chart. The outside wheel here is the sky right now. It's the transits right now. The thing that really stood out to me when I was prepping your chart is that you're having Neptune exactly conjunct your Mars right now. And so what stands out to me with the cards is, in terms of your body being the death card, Neptune on top of your Mars is a time of where you need to take rest really seriously. And that exists in your chart anyway. Your chart has part of your chart that's very driven, very, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to, very King of Wands, King of Pentacles. We're creating this thing and it's going to happen. And then you have other places in your chart that are connected or not connected, where it's like, also you have to pay attention to your body. You have to like live in a human body, let yourself not accomplish every single thing if it's not the right time. That also exists in your human design chart, which isn't so much transit based, but is like a permanent thing with you. You both are able to accomplish more than most people in a very short amount of time. And you need to rest when it's time to rest, or you can experience health. You can have health experiences that feel really life or death experiences if you don't take rest really seriously. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. I really hyper focus, but I'm also chronically ill. So that really
Yeah.
checks out very well.
Yeah. So I think with Neptune right now, so a Neptune transit is a long-term transit. It's not a brief one. Neptune went into Aries, I want to say last year. Yeah. Like April of 2025-ish. Yeah, March, April. And then it's not gonna be done transiting your Mars for another, let's say 2029. So another few years. So during that time, it's not to say don't get things done, but just be extra cautious when your body tells you you're too tired for things. Rest. Take it really seriously ahead of time so it doesn't have to become a collapse. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
So within your chart, within your natal chart, and that's not the only transit that you're going through right now, but that one really stood out to me, especially when Sarai had the death card as your body card. I was like, okay, we need to talk about it. Like, how do you have practices for regularly checking in with your body?
I try to a lot because, like I said, have those chronic illnesses that, if I don't do it, I really feel I end up being laid out for, a few days if I don't work on it. So yeah, it's become kind of necessary, but I always think I can get better at it, especially with little ones in the house. You always need to really, really take that time for yourself.
That's sort of another part that I was thinking is like, so you have your sun in the 12th house in Taurus, and it's opposing Pluto in Scorpio in your 6th house, and it creates a T square to Saturn in your 9th house. And your Saturn's in Aquarius. So what all of that means is this gives you like a tremendous amount of energy and drive to get things done. It gives you real insight into power dynamics and even spiritual and physical power dynamics. It can make you somebody where in your nature, if you see injustice, you're like, we're going to solve this. We're going to make things fair. We're going to create a structure that's going to get things done. And it can also put a lot of pressure on you in terms of your body and your personal health to not, if you see a problem, to not step back and wait. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so if you're using a T-square in your favor, and Sarai and I talk a lot about these Saturn-focused T-squares. We just like know a lot of people, I feel like, who have these Saturn-focused T-squares, which I don't know. But it can be this very sense of, well, if I work hard enough, if I'm disciplined enough, if I like am focused enough, then I will be able to solve all of the problems of the entire world, not just my current problems. Not
That resonates with me very much.
And then you exhaust yourself and you can't solve any problems if you don't use it in your favor, right?
I think just what we were talking about with that Sun, Pluto opposition, Saturn focused T-square, it does a little bit conjure some of the wisdom of the Knight of Swords, which is that kind of central card, which is like decisive action, really charging towards your goals, but also being tempered in that to some degree. So like, yes, in this deck, I like how it says it. It says, when this card appears, a little recklessness is favored, but this knight is no fool. And stay smart and don't let your impatience get the better of you. Just recognizing that like sometimes you do charge ahead and sometimes it is almost like an exercise in trust to know that things that you're working toward or wanting or working toward manifesting are on their way, whether or not you can personally put great effort toward it.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think that I am often like that knight charging ahead and trying to just keep going at full speed all the time.
Yeah. This is your human design chart. Have you ever done your human design before?
No, I haven't. This is so interesting.
Yeah. So human design takes in my view, and I mean this not as an insult, but as a compliment, a little bit more of a shallow, practical reality, external view of really similar things to the astrological natal chart. The astrological natal chart really hones in and digs into a lot of the psychological, emotional experiences. And even though human design is psychologically based, it has a very groundedness in your energy and how your energy interacts with the external environment, which I find helpful. So in human design, and I love it when I get to be the first person to tell somebody this, but you are a projector, and there are 5 types of aura in human design. There's a projector, a generator, a manifester, a manifesting generator, and a reflector. Projectors are the newest type of aura, and they're basically the new type of leader in the world. And so when you're a projector, though, one of the traps is really similar to the T-square that we just talked about, where, and especially the way that you are a projector, you have motor centers, so you feel like you have enough energy to get everything done. So these colored in shapes here mean that you bring energy to a space. The shapes where it is white means that you absorb energy in the space. So you actually have a lot of defined energy centers for a projector. And so that can make you feel like, oh, I can do it. I can do all the things. I can get all the things done. And you know what needs to get done. So that adds to the pressure to get it done. And the wisdom for projectors, the instruction for projectors is to wait to be invited and wait to be recognized before you start taking action. And the action that you are meant to take is to guide other people towards their best success. So projectors, I think of as seeing a bird's eye view of life. They see everything that's going on, and you can make this 1 degree. So like this is, I'm thinking of you talking about other people, you seeing other people's problems. You can see the 1 degree change that they could make to make them be infinitely more successful. If they've not invited you to give them that solution, though, it feels aggressive to them and they're going to reject it. So it's a waste of energy for you if you're solving problems that you haven't been invited to solve. Does that kind of make sense to you?
It does. And that is something that I definitely think has come up a lot in my life. And then also, I think there have been times where there have been people who've come into my life who want me to just keep fixing things all
Yeah.
the time
Yeah.
for them. And, you know, just like I think I need to wait to be invited, I also need to know when to uninvite myself from a situation or a person's life where they are just taking that energy from me all the time and wanting me to fix their life and fix things for them all the time.
And
Is that something that happens a
yeah.
lot with projectors?
Yes, absolutely. And that is specifically a trap of the type of projector that you are, because you have these defined motor centers. Some projectors don't have a lot of motor energy, so they know they have to rest a lot. Like they have a more obvious sense that they have to rest a lot, but especially for somebody with the level of motor centers that you have, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I could do that. Oh yeah, I could do that. And then people who know you can do it are like, I'll just let her do it. And you, in your astrology, you have a grand earth trine that forms a kite. And so you are very capable. You have natural talent. You have all this earthy, practical energy. And with Neptune right on your Mars, now is a time where you cannot afford to expend the extra energy. It's going to be your body that takes the hit if you're not being really careful and treating your physical energy as completely sacred and completely yours. Do you know what I mean?
I really do exactly know what you mean. I'm writing things in my notebook here, and yes, 100%. I think this is something that's very hard for me at work because people ask me all the time to weigh in on things. And a lot of times they're not in my job description necessarily, but it's something that feels good to do because it makes me feel capable and it feels like I'm helping people. And then just like you said earlier, on the way to be invited, people can describe me as a lot. And I think that's because when you have that tendency, you don't always you don't always get invited, right? And so sometimes you share things because you know them, but they're not always welcomed or wanted from those individuals either.
Yeah, and so the Neptune Mars conjunction is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of social groups, but it's real close to your 10th house, which is the house of career. So it makes sense to me that this experience would cross over kind of between friend groups, work, and that you'd have to be really careful with both. But that is the thing, the projector aura is called penetrative. So when people invite you, they're like, please come into my energy and solve this, right? When people don't invite you, they do experience it as a lot. And I have a lot of projectors in my life and in my friend group. And I've had I've had both experiences with them where I've been like, I need a projector for this problem. Let me call my projector friend. And they'll be like, oh, it's just, you want to get to point B, but you're going the opposite direction. You should just go towards point B. And I'll be like, oh, thank you, projector. But I've also had the experience of having projector friends be like, I need to step into your life and solve this problem that I've identified as a problem. And it does come off very non-consensual in that kind of experience.
Yes.
More than my experience is with a generator, for example. Like if a generator comes to solve my problem that I don't need to be solved, I'm usually like, yeah, I probably should have solved that anyway. But if it's a projector, I'm like, whoa, 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 why are you attacking me? This is too much. Because the energy is so penetrative, is the explanation within human design.
That makes a lot of sense.
The other reason that in general you need to be very cautious about people extracting your energy is that you have your sun in the 12th house. Whenever people have strong 12th house energy, that's energy that we are not necessarily aware of ourselves, but that other people see in us. And so it's easy for when we don't see our own energy and we don't necessarily, it's not that we're like being self-deprecating, but we're just not necessarily aware of certain talents, certain skills, certain abilities that we bring. It, because we're a little bit blind to it, because it's kind of in a blind spot for us, it does leave it a little bit more vulnerable to other people extracting that energy. And the solution to it isn't to be vigilant, but the solution is to take alone time to be present with yourself so that you become intentionally aware of the talents, skills, abilities that you bring. Does that make sense the way I said that?
Yes. And I think I've had that experience a lot where people will say, "You're so insert positive quality here,"
Yeah.
or you always are so good at this. And then this is something that I'm always like very surprised by. I think, oh my gosh, really? So that actually makes sense for me.
Yeah. And I think that there's also a tendency to be like, oh, if I know how to do this, everybody knows how to do this. That's not necessarily a thing that why would you talk about that? Everyone can do it because I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you were talking about when we first started chatting about Taurus, I think was that Uranus has gone from Taurus to Gemini now.
Yes.
You are a Gemini rising, though, and you're a late degree Gemini rising. So it's going to take years before Uranus hits your ascendant, but it's still there for you. Like Gemini is still strong energy for you. You're still going through a process of change. And I'm using a Campanus house system in this chart, but within your Campanus houses, this is going to be true with your Placidus houses. Most house systems, this is going to be true in. It's going through your 12th house, which is the house where your sun is. It's the house of your unconscious. This can be a time of real shifting and enlightenment related to your unconscious programming. It's a great time to be in therapy, in coaching, in any modality that lets you intentionally look at your inner child, at your shadow, any of these spaces that live in the subconscious or the unconscious.
That definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, so that's a real, it's not a change for you though so much with Uranus going into Gemini because you have Taurus and Gemini in your 12th house, so it's sort of an extension and a more quick moving experience of real change. And even it's a good time to check in with your intuition, check in with your body. I always look at, we have our body mind, like Sarai did with the card pull, our body, mind, emotions, spirit, check in with all of those places because you have strong connections to all of them. And it's a quick moving time with Uranus and Gemini in your 12th house to be able to just release even anything that doesn't serve you within your unconscious. And so all of this, I think as a theme, is you have strong drive to solve external problems and you have real talent in solving external problems, in making real change in the external world. And now is also a great time, and maybe even more of a focused time, to turn inward and to focus on who you are and who you're becoming as an inward matter. Saturn right now, the transiting Saturn, which is right here, is approaching to square your Uranus. And so some of these, your natal Uranus, So some of the focus on your social groups, what you're learning through people extracting from you, what you're learning about choosing rest, even when you have social options, even when people need you, some of this is going to be like, if you don't make the changes that you need to make, you're going to have swift consequences for it. So this is kind of another emphasis on taking that seriously and giving yourself the freedom that you need to have to care for your body, but also to show up in a way that feels really authentic to you, both in your partnership and in your social life. What questions come up for you with all of this?
So I think this resonates a lot. I think the part with my social circle is one of the hardest because I always feel like I get a lot of energy from being around people. And sometimes I'll be at the end of the week, battery 10%. And my social circle wants to get together and I haven't seen them in a long time. And or I mean, maybe it's only been a week or whatever, however long it's been. It feels like I need to spend that last 10% of my time, of my energy with them. And then sometimes also my partner gets the short end of the stick because they need, me too. So I guess just I need to know more about my body's signals and when to balance that and when to say no and
Yeah,
when to do, because obviously spending time with my partner is also less draining and still does fill me up with energy too.
totally. This can be a real personal thing with each projector, but overall, a lesson for projectors is you do get refilled by people for sure. That is really important for you. You also have what's called split definition in your human design, which means that you have these lower energy centers are connected to each other, and then these higher energy centers are connected to each other, but they are not connected. The two sections of energy are not connected with you. And that can give a real pull to be around people who have these energies connected. So, because it connects you in your overall experience. Does that make sense? Like, it is important for you to be around people, I guess, is the point there.
Mhm.
And also, one of the things that happens with projectors pretty consistently is you do get refilled by people's energy, and also it can create a fry out experience where if you are around people too much and not cleansing your own energy, it feels like you're getting recharged, but there's so much recharge that it just overloads a little bit, and you do need that separate time for yourself to come back to what your energy is, not just the energy that's being refilled by the group. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that also is compounded by the neurodivergent sort of tendency to mask and
Yeah.
try to also mirror other people.
Yes. That's such a good point. I think that really, it's interesting because I see, in my experience, it's quite common for people who have a T square with Saturn as the focal planet to also have a neurodivergent diagnosis. And I am not saying that it's caused by one or the other or anything, but the T square with a Saturn focus puts a lot of pressure, if we internalize it, to be perfect, to be disciplined, and so sometimes I think using medication, getting medical diagnoses is amazing and really supportive. And also, you're allowed to be messy is like a message I always want to get. Like, being messy, being you is beautiful, and coming back to yourself with that, having alone time to see what is really you, I think is an important part of not of using the Saturn focus T-square as a foundation of support for you, making the frameworks and the disciplines that you have in life be supportive of you instead of having them be like a taskmaster that's trying to get you to be some kind of neurotypical perfection. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think that is a lesson I've learned the hard way in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And when it says not self-theme is bitterness, what does that mean?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Okay, so the way that a projector knows if they are waiting for recognition and waiting for invitation is if they are feeling success. Spaces where you feel success, you know you've been invited into that space, you've been recognized in that space, and you've waited for that to happen. Spaces where you're feeling bitterness, it's a sign that you're not waiting for the invitation. And that can often be a sign that you're putting pressure on yourself to solve problems that you haven't been invited to solve.
That shows up a lot with my family.
I think family for projectors is a sort of an incubator space of this particular challenge because they are people who either really want our help or really don't want our help, like
Yes.
really often. And so it can just be the most charged space for it. I think one rule that I believe is true for projectors is that your children have chosen you and they have invited you already. You're their parent. And so you are automatically invited to support them, to lead them, to help them solve their problems. That's not necessarily true with parents, though, even though they have more obviously chosen you because of the power dynamic, because they have the greater power. And so if they are not inviting you or recognizing you, that's a space where protection is even more important for yourself. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think part of my challenge, and I don't know if this is a typical thing for projectors, but probably is I am then left wondering, well, then how am I supposed to even interact with you if this isn't what you want, you know?
Yeah.
So that's challenging is, you know, for people where using, I guess, even parents as an example, where you are an intimate part of their lives and they're asking you to do something, but it's clearly not the thing that you are used to doing for people or want to be doing for people. So then what is it?
Yeah. That's the space where, unfortunately, it's about boundaries and it's about really owning that it is your sacred duty to protect your energy and to cleanse your energy and to treat it with honor. You know, that your first obligation is to your energy. And then if somebody is asking you to do something, you can absolutely say yes or no. And then the trick is letting them feel uncomfortable and letting that be okay,
Yeah.
which is hard.
I saw a quote the other day that said, values aren't values unless they cost you something. And I think the same is true for boundaries.
That is a really good point. That's a really good way to say it. And I think also ultimately, if you're enforcing your boundaries, it's not costing you. And that's the point. You're not shredding energy towards something that's not correct for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in witchcraft, they talk about it's not about good or evil, it's about what is correct for you and what's not correct for you, which is a much more anchored in your body way to think of things. You are the one that knows what is correct for you and what's not correct for you. And I think the same, like that just is how boundaries work. Like you could decide that you only want to look at people who have blue shirts today, and no one's allowed in your house that doesn't have a blue shirt, and you're just allowed to do that. You don't have to have a good reason for it. You know, you don't have to justify it to people. But I think a lot of times, especially with people who have authority over us, and like bosses are an example, parents are an example, like people older than us, a lot of times we use as examples. We're like, oh, I'm not allowed to have a boundary. But a lot of times partners are like this too. I'm not allowed to have a boundary unless I have a good reason for it. And that's just not how it works to really honor your energy, especially as a projector. So you want to think about kind of projector energy, because it's penetrative, is like if you took, you know how if you drink vanilla extract, it tastes disgusting, but if you
Yes.
put it into baking, it tastes delicious. That's kind of like projector energy is just so condensed that it is more effective than other people's energy at smaller amounts. And that deserves to be valued. Like it's almost like if somebody's asking you to drink your vanilla extract, you're probably going to be like, that's a bad idea, but you could buy cookies somewhere with vanilla extract in them. And I think that, to me, it's maybe a silly analogy, but it's similar to when somebody's trying to extract, oh, I punned there, from a projector.
Yeah, I mean, I see that with work where if someone, like I said, people will often ask me for help with things, being that kind of strategist and being that sort of person to like take a step back, look at the big picture, and I can be really helpful. But then if they were doing that, if they were asking me for that same amount of help with every meeting they had, it would get old real quick.
It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then at that point, who's benefiting from that? They need to be able to run their own meetings. The other thing I would say related to that is that you have a completely open spleen. I'm circling it right now with my little arrow. This is the spleen energetic center. And what that means is that you're really intuitive at picking up other people's instinctive fears and amplifying them. And so when you find yourself falling into like a scarcity based thinking or a fear based thinking or even vigilance, just that's another good signal to take a step away and come back to your own energy. Like do a foot soak tub with 2 cups of Epsom salts and imagine your other people's energy draining out of your body into the foot soak tub. You can do it as a bath too, but like in the bath, we kind of sit in the energy a little bit more. Take a shower, imagine people's energy coming off of you in the shower, anything that like drains it off of you. If you notice yourself going into like a hypervigilance or a fear-based state, because a lot of times what that is you picking up other people's fears and other people's instinctive concerns and amplifying it.
Yeah, I think sometimes I do that with my partner because I try to kind of almost hold some of their trauma for them instead of letting them be in charge of their trauma, and I'm there as a support.
It's easy to do with partners because we're so inside of their energy and we are so connected to them and we are sharing burdens with them. And then that can be such a nuanced boundary to figure out what is correct for you, because you also don't want to be like, oh, well, fuck you, you're afraid, see you later, it's time for me to go take a shower. You want to be able to be present for somebody and you're not their therapist. So it is a
Yes.
really nuanced thing to navigate. And I think that there's a way to say to a partner, I can tell you're really afraid right now. I can tell this is really hard for you right now, and I want to be here for you. And I need to take 10 minutes and get back to myself so that I can be fully present with you to talk about this. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I think some of the best, most healthy kind of conversations that we have with when our trauma does come up, it's, with the acknowledgement, I'm not your therapist and I'm not, this is me being here as a partner, as a support for you. I'm not taking it on for
Right.
you. I'm not feeling myself as a newborn baby being, left to scream for hours or whatever the situation is that is coming up, right?
Yeah. I'm not putting your trauma into my body, kind of. I'm here as a separate person for you. Is that kind of what you're
Yes.
saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not in the same body. We're not,
Yeah. Which is tough.
because imagine if we had to carry all that really,
Yeah.
that wouldn't work well.
Yeah. The other thing that I'll say is the profile lines are like a sort of the healthiest, best mechanism with which we interact with other people, that we offer to other people. They're kind of a strategy that is natural to us for organizing our energy with other people. And yours is the 3-5. So the 3 line is called the martyr, and the 5 line is called the heretic. The 3 line martyr is basically the experimenter. It means that you go out, you try everything, you do everything, you make the mistakes. Like, part of the reason that you have solutions to offer to people is because you tried things that didn't work and experimented with things that didn't work. For you, I think, and the heretic is a person that sees outside of the current paradigm, that sees outside of the way things are right now. You generationally in your astrology, you have the Neptune Uranus conjunction. This is true for people who are, this is like a long term transit. That's true for people who are born in your generation. But it's a sign of major change. It's a ability to see what should be different, what would be expansive, to be idealistic, and then also expecting change to happen. And yours lives in, this is why I was thinking about it in this context, yours lives in your 7th house, which is the house of partnerships. So you have an ability to, or you're challenged and asked to see partnership differently, to see partnership better, to idealize how partnership can be, and freedom that's available in partnership, and then enact new ways of doing partnership. That's not the only place that your 3-5 lives. You generally have the ability to experiment and then see things differently than people, but it is kind of an overlap between your astrology and your human design. So I think there is a special ability within your projectorness to see how partnership can be healthier than models have been in the past of partnership.
That resonates with me so much.
Yeah. You have the other big thing with human design that we haven't talked about yet for you is you have emotional authority. And so emotional authority means that you need to ride your emotional waves. You bring your own moods to a situation, you bring your own emotions to a situation, and you're meant to do that. So you can wake up on a day and be like, it's a good day. And even if things go wrong, you're like, nope, I feel good today. I don't know. I just have this mood. Things are going well. Or conversely, it's just a bad day. Like, I'm just down today, and that's just how it is. And yours is called a build-up wave, and that means that things will be going good, things will be going good, and you're kind of, things are going up, and then things will crash all of a sudden, and it'll feel like it's out of nowhere, that you're just feeling really down. But that's kind of how your energy is meant to come to a space, and you're meant to experience the full range of emotion. Not everybody brings their own emotion to a space. Some people have open emotional centers, and those people kind of amplify your emotions, but you bring your own emotion to a space, and you're meant to do that because your emotional solar plexus is connected to your root, but it's not connected to your throat chakra. You're not necessarily supposed to talk about it or tell people about it. You don't have an obligation to tell people about it. You're allowed to, obviously, but if you try to describe it, it might come out in ways that you're like, that's not exactly right. You're meant to live it and embody that emotional sense. And that is sort of also an important thing for you to bring to a room. You also have a channel that's called the Genius Freak. And so that you bring your own opinions to things, you can understand and describe things that are mysterious and break them down for other people. And then when you break them down, it's either going to completely land in a way that nobody else had thought of that is like perfect, or people are not going to get it at all. And it's like you are speaking a different language and you can't know ahead of time who it's going to land for or who it's not going to land for, but it's not anything about you and what you're saying. Even if it doesn't land for people, you're still saying something that is correct for you. And for the right people for you, it's going to land in a genius way.
It sounds, I guess, it makes me feel like not so humble saying I can identify with that, but I think I do understand what that's referring to because I can identify with it.
Yeah. I think it can be a frustrating channel to have when it doesn't land, and I think it makes it more important for a projector to wait for the invitation, because people who have invited you, what you say to them is going to be genius level. When people haven't invited you, it's just not going to land for them.
Yes. Yes. And yeah. And then that thing about the emotions and not being able to always voice how I'm feeling to others, but living it and embodying it, that is very much how I feel. And I think it's been a little bit challenging too sometimes with my chronic illnesses that I have to actually voice. I can say things like I need to lie down or I need rest. It's harder for me to say exactly what is going on with my body and my mind and my emotions that's causing that to happen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think the Pluto Sun opposition that you have, a Pluto Sun opposition, I think we talked about is really has a lot to do with power dynamics, and yours, because it's in the 6th house and the 12th house, has a lot to do. It speaks to that your inner knowing, your ability to be present with yourself, be alone with yourself, and know that you have spiritual intuition, and your ability to be present with your body can have real serious consequences and be threatened in your life. Like it speaks to health conditions not being listened to or treated seriously. And so I just want to validate that's a real thing in your chart.
My entire childhood.
Yeah. And so it's within your astrological chart, there's no magic way. There's nothing magic that you could have said that would have made people take it seriously enough. It's kind of more about a journey of you honoring the power that you have to know yourself and know that you can take your body seriously, but there's not something that you could have said that would have made it right externally. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. And I remember talking to my therapist about how I had this childhood fantasy that one day I'd be diagnosed with something and everything would make sense. And then everyone would feel bad for saying that I was making everything up. But then my therapist said, wait, didn't that actually happen? And that did actually at one time happen. And then nothing changed. So
Yes. Mhm.
at least nothing changed for other people.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because they, within this dynamic, it's really about your relationship to yourself more than it is about their ability to show up, them not knowing is really about their ability to show up. And that's not to say it was fair or that, oh, this is, everything should happen like this. But it is to say that the reality of the earth that we live in has Pluto in it, has Plutonian experiences in it. And like, you knowing and taking your health seriously is the important part. And you have the ability and the drive to care for your health. You have the discipline to care for your health, regardless of how other people treat it, which isn't fair, but it is built into your chart, I think.
It's just the situation.
Yeah. 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 What other questions do you have?
So this is really helping me see things about myself that I hadn't necessarily seen in or not in that exact light before, and just helping to explain certain things. And so I think I'd love for Sarai to maybe
Yeah.
take all of this back to the cards. Like, just given everything that you just said, Meredith, I'd love to hear how this all kind of plays in with the card reading as well, because I know it does, based on what we said at the beginning.
And the energy in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things, when you just talked about the martyr and the heretic thing, that also, Meredith,
Yeah.
was so, I feel like I'm in my heretic era for sure. And I feel like I can be like, make myself a martyr and then get frustrated. So I also need to not do that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mhm.
don't necessarily like the words always that they use. I like the word experimenter better than martyr because it's really more accurate to what it means. And it means like the kid who's like, oh, I think I could jump off that roof and into that hay pile. I bet that would work. And then like does it and it either works or it doesn't work. Like really extremely.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just going back and reminding us, we had Knight of Swords as kind of the theme, which we talked about just a little bit earlier, and I've brought it back up. But I think that theme being, yes, almost like, what is the laser focus on goals that you want to have right now? Like, what area of your life feels like it's really calling you the most right now? Because I think a lot of it is also about what we prioritize and allow. Honestly, I think everything's kind of about allowing at this point is really where I'm coming to. But going back into, I think we've talked quite a bit about that, the point of your body and just caring for that. And the death card being, again, like all about cycles. Like, it is kind of a beautiful card, but recognizing the cycles of your own body and understanding the seasons of your body. Like, that might be aligning with the external seasons. Right now we just had the summer solstice yesterday. So we're really in the season of light and energy, and harvest is coming soon. And so this like boisterous moment that might not always match up with your internal season. And so recognizing where you are in that is important too. And I think kind of a part of this being about, how do you create that space for your body? And then we go back to the mind being Ace of Wands. One, you're aware of a sort of a new beginning, something is shifting and changing. And also you have the like spark of inspiration for it. I think this Ace of Wands is also interesting. I mean, talking about the genius freak connection, um, having that inspiration that may or may not make sense to other people, but that does make sense to you. Because I also have this channel, this genius freak thing. And so have the experience of sometimes being like, oh, I see this thing that's happening that's going to be relevant later. It's almost like a prescient kind of a thing. And it may or may not land with people. And sometimes they're like, you're crazy for thinking that, and we're going to do the thing we're doing. Or they're like, oh my God, we need to get on this right now. So it's kind of a interesting one, but I do feel like Ace of Wands, that like spark of possibility is a part of that, and to embrace that side of yourself, because it can be, again, like as a projector, your position is a little different because other people have to recognize and invite you in to share that stuff, but you also have it within you. So you can use it for yourself too. Like, no matter what, you can always invite yourself to share your wisdom with yourself, which is kind of a beautiful thing. And the King of Wands being your emotional situation or state right now. I mean, again, it's that like, hey, you're speaking the truth, you're out there leading the charge on some things. And also the King of Wands is about reminding yourself how to maintain that energy. You know, you're the King of Wands being fire. You have to continue to tend to that fire. You don't want to overburn. You don't want to deprive it of oxygen. You know, it is about managing that energy. And I think an interesting thing where we've talked about your Sun Pluto opposition and the Saturn T square with that, I think that's a place where I think King of Wands can become really powerful with that Sun in the 12th house, the subconscious energy, and then opposed to Pluto, which is in your 6th, which is your body and like your health and all of that. I think this King of Wands piece really attunes to that really well. And then with King of Pentacles, any thoughts on these so far? Where are your questions? Are we getting there?
You're getting exactly to my questions. And I think it's so interesting to see how this all plays in so well together. And the human design with the cards and with my birth chart, it's just all making so much sense. And it's so interesting how every single thing you can point to it in all of those places.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's really cool. So King of Pentacles is your spirit. And I think that's kind of fun because the spirit, and as I mentioned before, this is like, yes, the King of Pentacles is wise about resources and has resources and also is building those resources for mutual benefit. This, I feel like, can really play into your projector aura as well. The King of Pentacles is somebody who understands that longevity and stability can be cultivated and needs to be maintained over time. And I think the King of Pentacles is uniquely about pleasure also and about enjoyment of the life that you are living right now in this body and like giving yourself the space to not just endure, but to actually relax into that enjoyment and to know, yeah, you work, you do the things, you care for yourself, you care for your family, all of that. And also just giving yourself the spaciousness to do what makes you happy, to enjoy things, to give yourself space, to prioritize pleasure and actually make that a key part of your life and one of your own goals, not just goals about external achievements or whatever you want to accomplish, but also about giving yourself the kind of experience in this life that your soul actually came here to have.
That's so poignant, and I love that. And I think it's definitely resonates with me. And I feel like my body's kind of in this position right now where it's ended its sort of era of, creation, and now it's about rest and pleasure and enjoyment and knowing when to really take care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the King of Pentacles is so much about cultivating and like really tending that inner garden of your body and of your life and really of your relationships as well.
I would say one of the pieces of wisdom about projectors is that because projectors are projecting the simplicity of the system, the truth of the solution outward, they don't see themselves as clearly as they see the solutions for other people and the way that other people are. So one strategy around that is to go to people who really know you, who you really trust, and say to them, what do you see about me that where I'm already good at caring for my body? Where do you see me being already good at pleasure and getting their input on that? Because sometimes they'll say things to you, like you were saying before, of skills that you have that you hadn't even thought of. And that's also true of having the sun in Taurus in the 12th house. Like you don't necessarily see it, but it does have that King of Pentacles energy. And so sometimes other people can give you that wisdom back.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I
We're
mean,
just
this is
happy to
so
have
helpful.
you. Yeah, thank you so much for doing it. It's really
Thank you. This has been so
fun.
insightful. I think everyone should have this reading just because it's taught me so much about myself and also just illuminated things that I knew on a subconscious level, but seeing it in real time is just so interesting and so just helpful. So interesting. I love it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.